Most people are proud of working hard. They wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They believe sweat alone earns success. That belief is not noble. It is dangerous. Because effort without direction does not build greatness, it destroys potential. Hard work is only powerful after the mind decides where it is going. Before that, it is blind force. And blind force never wins. It only consumes energy, time, and belief. Millions work hard every day and remain exactly where they started, not because they lack effort, but because they lack purpose. The world does not reward those who try the hardest. It rewards those who think the clearest. Nature never pays for struggle, it pays for results. You can push a door all day, but if it says pull, your effort is meaningless. That is what most lives look like. Endless pushing against the wrong system. Busy people feel productive. Focused people become powerful. Busyness is often just fear in disguise, the fear of stopping long enough to think, decide, and take responsibility for a clear aim. Thinking is harder than working. That is why so few do it. Success begins the moment a definite decision is made. From that moment, effort gains direction, and direction gives effort power. 1 hour of focused action toward a clear purpose outweighs 10 years of scattered labor. Persistence is praised everywhere. But persistence without intelligence is a trap. Continue long enough in the wrong direction and you don't become strong. You become stuck. The disciplined mind pauses, adjusts, and then moves forward with precision. The greatest achievers are not the hardest workers. They are the most deliberate ones. They conserve energy. They choose battles. They align action with intention. They refuse to confuse motion with progress. If you want real results, stop glorifying exhaustion. Stop worshiping effort. Decide exactly what you want. Build a plan. Focus your energy. Then work not hard but correctly, because focused effort creates power. And power, not struggle, is what wins. Hard work without direction is not virtue, it's self-deception. It is the most comfortable lie people tell themselves to avoid the pain of thinking. When a person says, "At least I'm working hard," what they often mean is, "I don't know where I'm going, but I hope effort alone will save me." It won't. Effort without intention is not strength, it is wasted life force. The graveyards are full of exhausted people who worked relentlessly and achieved almost nothing of consequence. The world does not reward sweat, it rewards alignment. Nature is brutal and honest, it pays only for results. You can struggle, suffer, wake up early, sleep late, and still be invisible if your effort is scattered. Motion creates noise, not progress. Direction creates power. Until the mind decides on a definite purpose, the hands are merely busy, not productive. Most people glorify hard work because it feels moral, it feels earned, it feels safe. But safety is the enemy of greatness. Working hard gives the illusion of control while avoiding the responsibility of choice. Choice is terrifying because once you choose, failure becomes personal. So people hide behind effort. They grind, hustle, and exhaust themselves, hoping fatigue will replace clarity. It never does. The truth is uncomfortable. Thinking is harder than working. A clear decision demands honesty. It demands that you confront what you truly want, what you're willing to sacrifice, and what you must ignore. That level of focus eliminates excuses. That is why the majority stay busy instead of becoming effective. Busyness is socially acceptable confusion. Look closely at success and you'll notice something offensive to the ego. Those who achieve the most are not the ones who work the longest hours. They are the ones who choose the right target and concentrate. One precise action applied consistently outperforms a lifetime of random effort. A laser cuts through steel not because it works harder, but because it focuses. Persistence is praised everywhere, but persistence without intelligence is stubbornness disguised as discipline. Staying on the wrong path does not make you resilient, it makes you foolish. The disciplined mind pauses, evaluates, and adjusts. The undisciplined mind keeps pushing, hoping force will compensate for poor direction. It never does. Effort should be the servant of purpose, not its substitute. When effort replaces purpose, life becomes heavy. When purpose leads effort, work becomes light, even when it is demanding. Clarity removes resistance. Confusion multiplies it. That is why two people can work equally hard, yet one advances while the other remains stuck. One is aligned, the other is merely active. Decide first, always. Decide what outcome you want so clearly that your actions begin to organize themselves around it. A definite aim has gravity. It pulls the right opportunities closer and repels distractions. Without it, you chase everything and catch nothing. Energy scattered in 10 directions produces fatigue. Energy concentrated in one direction produces momentum. Hard work is not the problem. Blind hard work is. Work is powerful only after thought has given it shape. Thought is the architect, effort is the laborer. Reverse those roles and you build nothing but exhaustion. History does not remember who tried the hardest. It remembers who aimed correctly and acted decisively. Stop worshiping struggle. Struggle is not proof of progress. Often it is proof of misalignment. Progress feels controlled, intentional, and repeatable. It has rhythm. Struggle is chaotic. It drains belief. It makes you doubt yourself when the real issue is not effort, but direction. The moment you accept this, your life changes. You stop measuring days by how tired you are and start measuring them by what actually moved forward. You stop bragging about hours and start protecting focus. You stop confusing motion with meaning. Work, but work with intent. Hustle, but hustle toward something specific. Persist, but persist intelligently. Because success is not built by those who work the hardest. It is claimed by those who decide clearly, focus relentlessly, and act with precision. Direction turns effort into power. Without it, hard work is not heroic. It is self-deception. Effort does not create success. Purpose plus strategy does. Effort alone is cheap. Anyone can burn energy. Anyone can stay busy. Anyone can exhaust themselves and call it progress. But success is never impressed by how much you try. It responds only to how intelligently you move. Without purpose, effort has no destination. Without strategy, it has no leverage. Together, purpose and strategy turn ordinary action into unstoppable force. Most people believe effort is the price of success because it feels fair. Work hard, get rewarded. That story is comforting and completely false. The world is not moral, it is mechanical. It operates on cause and effect, not intention or struggle. 10 hours of effort aimed nowhere produces nothing. 1 hour of focused action aimed correctly can change a life. The difference is not energy, it is direction. Purpose is the decision that ends confusion. It is the moment you stop drifting and start choosing. Until that moment, every action competes with every other action, and nothing gains momentum. Purpose simplifies life by eliminating options. It tells you what matters and, more importantly, what does not. Without purpose, effort is scattered across distractions, obligations, and other people's priorities. With purpose, effort becomes concentrated, and concentration creates power. Strategy is what separates wishful thinking from real progress. Purpose says where you are going. Strategy decides how you get there. Effort without strategy is just hope wearing work clothes. It assumes force will compensate for ignorance. It never does. Strategy multiplies effort by using timing, sequence, and leverage. It asks what action produces the maximum result with the least. Tea waste? That question alone places you ahead of the crowd. Look around and you'll see proof everywhere. The hardest workers are often the most frustrated. They stay late, wake early, sacrifice constantly, and remain stuck. Not because they lack discipline, but because they lack a plan that makes discipline effective. Meanwhile, others advance with less visible effort, not because they are lazy, but because their actions are aligned. Alignment always outperforms intensity. Effort is dangerous when it becomes a substitute for thinking. Thinking requires accountability. It forces you to admit when something is not working. Effort allows you to hide. As long as you are busy, you can avoid the uncomfortable truth that your approach is flawed. Many people don't fail because they quit. They fail because they persist in the wrong strategy far too long. Purpose sharpens awareness. When you know exactly what you want, you start noticing opportunities that were always there but previously invisible. Strategy teaches you restraint. It prevents you from reacting emotionally and wasting energy on low-value actions. Together they turn work into a weapon instead of a burden. Success is built through sequence, not strain. Do the right thing first, then the next right thing, then repeat. Effort applied in the wrong order creates resistance. Applied in the right order, it creates momentum. Momentum reduces effort. That is the secret few understand. Proper strategy makes success feel lighter, not heavier. The disciplined mind does not ask, how hard can I work? It asks, what is the most intelligent move right now? That question saves years. It protects energy. It forces clarity. Effort should be the final step, not the first. When effort leads, confusion follows. When purpose and strategy lead, effort becomes precise and devastatingly effective. Stop measuring your worth by how tired you are. Fatigue is not proof of progress. Results are. Stop glorifying struggle. Struggle is often a sign of misalignment, not commitment. When purpose is clear and strategy is sound, work feels demanding but meaningful. There is resistance but not chaos. There is pressure but not confusion. The moment you shift from effort-based living to purpose-driven strategy, everything changes. You stop chasing everything and start advancing toward something. You stop reacting and start executing. You stop hoping and start building. Effort is necessary, but it is never sufficient. Purpose gives effort direction. Strategy gives it force. Without them, success remains a fantasy no amount of hard work can reach. Most people worship busyness because it hides the fear of thinking. Thinking demands honesty, and honesty is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront what you truly want, what you are avoiding, and where you are lying to yourself. Busyness, on the other hand, feels productive without requiring courage. It creates noise that drowns out doubt. As long as you are moving, you don't have to ask whether you are moving in the right direction. Busyness is socially rewarded confusion. The exhausted are praised, the overworked are admired. The person who says, I'm busy, is treated as important, even when nothing meaningful is being produced. This cultural obsession gives people a perfect hiding place. They can avoid clarity while appearing disciplined. They can avoid responsibility while appearing committed. But busyness is not progress. It is motion without meaning. Thinking is dangerous because it leads to decisions, and decisions eliminate excuses. Once you decide what you want, you can no longer blame circumstances, timing, or other people. You become accountable. That level of ownership terrifies most people, so they replace thought with activity. They fill every hour with task, messages, and obligations, hoping movement will replace direction. It never does. The mind knows when effort is wasted. That is why busyness creates exhaustion without fulfillment. You feel tired but not satisfied. You work all day and still feel behind. That feeling is not laziness, it is misalignment. Your actions are not connected to a clear purpose, so the mind resists them. Energy leaks away because nothing is anchored. Busy people react. Focused people choose. Reaction feels urgent, important, and necessary, but it rarely builds anything lasting. Choice requires pause. Pause creates silence. Silence exposes fear. That is why so many avoid it. They fear discovering that what they are doing doesn't matter, or worse, that they've been avoiding what does. Busyness also protects the ego. If you fail while busy, you can say you tried. If you fail after clear thinking and decisive action, there is nowhere to hide. The result reflects the quality of your decisions. For many, it feels safer to exhaust themselves than to risk being wrong with clarity. The tragedy is that thinking is what creates leverage. One clear thought can save years of effort. One honest evaluation can prevent a lifetime of struggle. But leverage requires patience, and patience feels like laziness in a culture addicted to motion. So people trade power for appearance. They choose to look productive instead of becoming effective. Busyness fragments attention. It keeps you jumping from one demand to the next, never long enough to build momentum. Momentum requires depth. Depth requires focus. Focus requires saying no. And saying no threatens the illusion that everything is equally important. It isn't. Most things are distractions wearing urgency as a disguise. When you slow down to think, patterns emerge. You see which actions produce results and which only consume time. You start asking better questio. NS, what actually matters? What moves the needle? What can be eliminated? These questions are lethal to busyness. That is why busyness fights back with urgency, noise, and constant stimulation. People claim they don't have time to think. The truth is they are afraid of what thinking will reveal. It may reveal that their job, routine, or goals are misaligned. It may reveal that change is required. Change demands discomfort. Busyness postpones that discomfort indefinitely. A focused life looks quiet from the outside. Fewer tasks, fewer explanations, fewer reactions, but inside it is deliberate and powerful. Every action is connected to intent. Every effort has a reason. That kind of life does not seek validation through exhaustion. It produces results that speak without noise. The moment you stop worshiping busyness, you regain control. You stop filling time and start using it. You stop reacting and start designing. You stop confusing activity with achievement. Thinking is not the enemy of action. It is its commander. Without it, action is chaos. With it, even small actions become decisive. Most people stay busy their entire lives and never realize they were running from the very thing that could have set them free. Busyness feels safe. Thinking creates power, and power requires courage. Grinding harder on the wrong path only guarantees exhaustion. It does not bring you closer to success. It drives you deeper into frustration while convincing you that effort will eventually rescue you. This belief is one of the most expensive lies people live by. They assume that if something isn't working, the solution is to push harder, stay longer, sacrifice more. In reality, force applied in the wrong direction does not create progress. It accelerates failure. The problem is not effort. The problem is attachment. Once people commit energy to a path, they become emotionally invested in it. Admitting it's wrong feels like admitting weakness, wasted time, or poor judgment. So instead of stepping back and reassessing, they double down. They confuse persistence with wisdom. But persistence without alignment is not strength, it is denial. Exhaustion is often misinterpreted as proof of dedication. People believe being tired means they are doing something meaningful. But exhaustion is frequently a signal, not a badge. It signals that energy is being spent without return. The body knows when effort is misaligned long before the mind accepts it. That constant fatigue, that quiet resentment, that loss of enthusiasm, those are not signs to push harder. They are warnings to stop and rethink. Grinding on the wrong path creates momentum in the wrong direction. The longer you stay on it, the harder it becomes to change course. Habits form, identity forms. You begin to define yourself by the struggle. Walking away starts to feel like losing yourself, so you keep moving even when the road leads nowhere. That is how years disappear. Force cannot replace clarity. You cannot outwork a flawed direction. You cannot hustle your way out of a bad decision. Effort is powerful only when it serves the right objective. Without that, every hour worked becomes a cost instead of an investment. And costs add up. The world is full of people who are busy but stuck. They wake up early, stay late, and repeat the same actions with the same results. They are not lazy. They are misaligned. And misalignment does not respond to more effort. It responds to better thinking. Grinding also numbs awareness. When you are constantly pushing, you stop listening. You ignore feedback. You dismiss doubt. You label warning signs as weakness. This is dangerous because feedback is how course correction happens. Without it, you drift further off track while convincing yourself you are committed, real pro. Progress requires the courage to pause. Pausing feels like falling behind, especially in a culture that glorifies non-stop action. But pausing to evaluate direction is not quitting, it is leadership. It is the difference between a soldier charging blindly and a commander choosing the battlefield. The most effective people adjust early. They do not wait for burnout to force a change. They measure results, not effort. When something isn't producing outcomes, they question the path, not their worth. That detachment gives them flexibility. Flexibility creates resilience. Resilience outlasts raw endurance every time. Grinding harder can temporarily silence fear because it feels decisive, but it eventually amplifies regret. When you realize you invested years in the wrong direction, the weight is crushing. That regret does not come from lack of effort. It comes from lack of alignment. Progress feels different from grinding. It has tension but also momentum. It demands work, but it gives energy back. You may be tired at the end of the day, but not empty. When effort is aligned, it feeds belief instead of draining it. If you feel constantly exhausted with nothing to show for it, the answer is not more grit. It is a better question. Where am I going? Is this path producing the results I want? What evidence do I have? These questions are uncomfortable, but they save lives, careers, and decades. Grinding is easy. Anyone can suffer. Choosing the right direction requires honesty, humility, and courage. But once direction is right, effort finally works for you instead of against you. Grinding harder on the wrong path doesn't make you strong. It makes you tired, and tired people rarely win. Rich results come from decisions, not desperation. Desperation is loud, emotional, and frantic. It rushes, it reacts, it clings to any opportunity that promises relief. Decisions are quiet, deliberate, and final. They do not beg for permission or approval. They establish direction and force the world to respond. Every meaningful outcome in life traces back not to panic or pressure, but to a moment of clarity where someone decided and refused to drift again. Desperation feels productive because it is intense. When people are afraid of losing time, money, or status, they move fast. But speed without direction only spreads chaos. Desperate action is driven by fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of failing, fear of running out of options. Fear narrows perception. It pushes people toward short-term relief instead of long-term results. That is why desperation creates activity but rarely creates wealth, stability, or power. Decisions do the opposite. A real decision closes doors. It eliminates alternatives. It removes hesitation. The moment a decision is made, energy stops leaking in 10 directions and begins flowing in one. That focus is what produces leverage. Leverage is the multiplier desperation can never access. Most people postpone decisions because deciding makes the outcome personal. As long as you haven't decided, you can blame circumstances. Once you decide, results reflect the quality of your thinking. That accountability is uncomfortable, so people remain open, exploring, and figuring things out for years. In reality, they are avoiding commitment. Desperation keeps people chasing money, chasing approval, chasing shortcuts. It convinces them that the next opportunity will fix everything. Decisions build instead of chase. They create structure. They allow patience because there is a plan in place. A person with a decision can wait. A desperate person cannot. Rich results require time to compound. Compounding only works when direction is stable. You cannot compound panic. You cannot build momentum while constantly changing course. Desperation resets progress over and over again. Decisions lock progress in place and allow growth to stack. Look at how desperate people operate. They overpromise, they underprice, they accept poor terms. They say yes to everything. In trying to survive, they give away leverage. Decisive people protect leverage. They say no more than they say yes. They move slower, but they move forward. Desperation also distorts judgment. It makes bad options look attractive because they offer immediate relief. That is why desperate people repeat the same mistakes. They are solving symptoms, not causes. Decisions address causes. They are rooted in clarity, not urgency. A decision does not require perfect information. It requires sufficient clarity and the courage to act. Waiting for certainty is another form of fear. But desperation is worse. It forces action without clarity. One creates progress. The other creates damage control. When a decision is made, behavior changes automatically. Priorities sharpen. Time is respected. Distractions lose power. The mind stops negotiating and starts executing. This internal alignment is what outsiders call confidence, but it is simply the byproduct of commitment. Wealth, influence, and mastery all come from long-term consistency. Consistency is impossible without decisions. You cannot be consistent will. Second-guessing yourself daily. Desperation lives in second-guessing. Decisions live in resolve. The turning points of life are rarely dramatic. They are quiet moments where someone decides, This is what I'm building, this is what I'm ignoring. This is the standard I will not violate. From that moment, the future reorganizes itself. If your actions feel rushed, scattered, or reactive, you are operating from desperation. The solution is not more effort or more opportunities. It is a decision. Decide what you want. Decide what you will no longer tolerate. Decide what matters most. Desperation asks, what can I get right now? Decisions ask, what am I building? Rich results always answer the second question. Desperation burns energy. Decisions create power. The mind must work before the hands, or the hands are wasted. Action without thought is not productivity. It is chaos dressed up as effort. When the hands move before the mind decides, energy leaks into tasks that feel urgent but accomplish nothing lasting. This is how people stay busy for years and still wonder why their lives never change. They worked constantly, yet built nothing of real value. The hands execute. The mind designs. Reverse that order, and you don't get speed, you get confusion. Thought gives shape to effort. Without it, action is blind, reacting to whatever appears next instead of advancing toward something chosen. Movement feels satisfying in the short term, but satisfaction fades quickly when results don't follow. Most people rush into action to avoid the discomfort of thinking. Thinking requires clarity, and clarity removes excuses. Once the mind decides on a direction, every wasted action becomes obvious. That awareness is uncomfortable, so people skip it. They choose activity over intention because activity feels safer. You can always say you tried, but nature does not reward trying, it rewards effectiveness. A farmer who works endlessly without choosing the right soil or season does not earn a harvest, only fatigue. Effort applied at the wrong time or in the wrong place is not noble, it is negligent. The same law applies to life and business. Timing, positioning, and sequence matter more than raw effort. When the mind works first, effort multiplies. A single clear insight can replace months of trial and error. Planning saves energy. Strategy creates leverage. The most successful outcomes rarely come from brute force, they come from intelligent placement of force. This is why small, focused teams outperform massive, chaotic ones. The difference is thinking. Action-first living creates constant rework. People start, stop, restart, and pivot endlessly because nothing was clearly defined at the beginning. Goals shift. Standards change. Motivation rises and falls. This instability drains belief. Over time, people begin to doubt themselves when the real problem was never a lack of discipline. It was a lack of direction. The mind's job is not to complicate things, it is to simplify. Clear thinking reduces effort by eliminating unnecessary action. It asks hard questions early so mistakes are not paid for later. Every minute spent thinking saves hours of correction. Yet this truth is ignored because thinking does not look impressive. It is quiet, invisible, uncelebrated. Hands-first effort often produces urgency without importance. People respond to messages, attend meetings, complete tasks, yet nothing moves forward. They are busy managing motion instead of building momentum. Momentum only comes from actions that align with a clear objective. Without that objective, work expands to fill time but never creates progress. When the mind leads, the hands become precise. Every action has a reason. Every task connects to an outcome. This precision builds confidence, not teach. Rough emotion, but through evidence. You trust yourself because your actions work. That trust compounds into calm, controlled execution. Thinking does not mean overthinking. It means deciding. It means choosing an aim, defining constraints, and committing to a path. Overthinking is indecision pretending to be intelligence. Clear thinking ends debate and begins movement. It is decisive, not endless. The disciplined person resists the urge to act immediately. They pause long enough to ask, what matters most right now? What action produces the greatest return? What can be ignored? These questions protect energy. They ensure effort creates value instead of noise. Hands without a guiding mind chase urgency. Hands guided by a focused mind create impact. This is why two people can work equally hard and achieve vastly different outcomes. One is executing a plan, the other is reacting to circumstances. If your days feel full but unproductive, the solution is not more action. It is better thinking. Step back, define the objective, choose the sequence, then act with commitment. Action taken after clarity feels different. It is steady, confident, and effective. The mind is the architect. The hands are the builders. Let the builders start before the blueprint is finished, and you don't get progress, you get rubble. The mind must work first. Otherwise, the hands are just staying busy while life stays the same. Clarity multiplies effort, confusion burns it. The same amount of energy can either build momentum or disappear into nothing. And the difference is not strength, talent, or luck, it is clarity. When direction is clear, effort compounds. When direction is unclear, effort evaporates. People do not fail because they lack drive. They fail because their drive is pointed nowhere. Confusion is expensive. It drains energy before any real work begins. When you are unclear, every decision feels heavy. Every task feels urgent. Every option feels possible. This overload fragments attention and slows execution. You move but without conviction. You work but without confidence. The mind resists because it does not know what outcome it is serving. Clarity simplifies. It narrows the field. It eliminates options so power can concentrate. Once you know exactly what you are building, thousands of distractions lose relevance. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop second-guessing. Action becomes lighter because the mind is no longer fighting uncertainty. Effort under confusion feels exhausting because nothing reinforces it. There is no feedback loop. You cannot tell if you are winning or losing, so motivation fluctuates. One day feels productive, the next feels pointless. Over time, belief erodes. People begin to label themselves as lazy or undisciplined, when the real problem is mental fog. Clarity creates alignment. When thought, intention, and action point in the same direction, effort accelerates. Progress becomes visible. Results, even small ones, feed momentum. This is how ordinary effort turns into extraordinary outcomes, not through intensity, but through alignment. Confusion forces reaction. You respond to whatever demands attention first instead of what matters most. Urgency replaces importance. Noise replaces strategy. This reactive state keeps people busy but powerless. They are constantly doing, rarely deciding. Clear people decide early. They know their priorities, their standards, and their next move. This decisiveness gives their effort force. They do not need to work harder because their work is targeted. One action advances 10 others because everything is connected. Confusion also breeds doubt. When outcomes are unclear, failure feels personal. You cannot tell if results are bad because of effort, timing, or direction. This uncertainty, eats anxiety. And anxiety drains energy faster than physical work ever could. The mind becomes tired before the body does. Clarity removes emotional friction. You may still face obstacles, but you face them with certainty. Resistance is easier to handle when you know why you are pushing through it. Purpose gives effort meaning. Meaning sustains endurance. Most people avoid clarity because it demands decisions. Decisions eliminate comfort. Once you are clear, you must act, and act consistently. Confusion allows escape. It provides plausible excuses. It lets you stay busy without being accountable. But it also guarantees stagnation. Clear thinking is not complicated. It asks simple but demanding questions. What am I trying to achieve? Why does it matter? What is the next best action? These questions cut through noise. They expose wasted effort. They redirect energy toward impact. Effort multiplied by clarity feels almost unfair. Progress accelerates. Results appear with less strain. Outsiders call it luck or talent, but it is neither. It is focus. Focus turns limited energy into disproportionate results. Confusion, by contrast, is a silent killer. It does not announce itself as failure. It shows up as busyness, fatigue, and frustration. People live in it for years, blaming circumstances while their energy slowly drains away. The moment clarity arrives, effort changes character. Work becomes intentional. Time feels sufficient. Confidence grows because actions align with outcomes. Even setbacks feel useful because they provide information, not discouragement. If your effort feels heavy, scattered, or unrewarding, do not add more. Subtract confusion. Pause long enough to define direction. Choose one objective. Commit to it. Then apply effort relentlessly in that direction. Clarity does not require perfection. It requires decision. Once decided, effort finally has a destina. On. And effort with a destination does not burn out. It builds. Clarity multiplies effort. Confusion consumes it. The choice determines everything. Success obeys law, not emotion or sweat. It does not respond to how badly you want something, how hard you struggle, or how exhausted you become in pursuit of it. Desire is invisible to results. Effort is neutral. Only alignment with cause and effect produces outcomes. This is uncomfortable because it strips away comforting myths and replaces them with responsibility. People are taught that passion guarantees success. It doesn't. Passion without structure burns out. Emotion without discipline misleads. Feelings change daily, but results demand consistency. The laws that govern achievement do not bend for motivation or suffering. They reward preparation, timing, leverage, and repetition. Sweat feels like proof of commitment, but sweat is not a currency the world accepts. Results are. Nature does not pay for struggle. It pays for correct action taken consistently. You can pour emotion into a flawed approach and still fail. You can remain calm, almost detached, and succeed by following principles. This is why success often looks boring from the outside. Emotion clouds judgment. When people act from urgency, fear, or excitement, they ignore feedback. They chase shortcuts. They overcommit. They underprice. They break their own standards. Emotional action feels decisive, but often destroys leverage. The laws of success punish emotional inconsistency. Law is predictable. If you apply the right inputs in the right order, you get predictable outputs. This predictability is what makes mastery possible. The disciplined individual studies what works, removes what doesn't, and repeats what produces results. There is no drama in this process, only precision. Sweat without law is wasted energy. Law without sweat is incomplete. Effort is R. Required, but it must be subordinate to principle. When people put effort first, they hope intensity will compensate for ignorance. When they put law first, effort becomes efficient and powerful. The most dangerous belief is that effort guarantees reward. It creates entitlement. People start expecting outcomes simply because they tried. When results don't come, they feel betrayed. But the system was never unjust. It was never consulted. Law was ignored. Every field follows rules. Business follows demand, positioning, and value creation. Health follows consistency and recovery. Skill follows deliberate practice and feedback. Ignore these laws and no amount of motivation will save you. Obey them and progress becomes inevitable. Emotional people quit early or push too far. Both are violations of law. Law demands balance, intensity followed by recovery, risk followed by evaluation, action followed by adjustment. This rhythm sustains growth. Emotion disrupts it. Success looks different when you understand this. You stop seeking inspiration and start building systems. You stop chasing feelings and start measuring outcomes. You stop proving effort and start improving process. This shift removes frustration because results become explainable and repeatable. Calm execution beats emotional effort every time. Calm allows observation. Observation allows correction. Correction produces improvement. Emotion resists correction because it feels personal. Law does not care about ego. The wealthy, skilled, and influential are not always the most passionate. They are the most consistent. Consistency is obedience to law over time. It compounds quietly until results appear inevitable. When emotion runs high, discipline must run higher. Not to suppress feeling, but to prevent feeling from dictating action. Law is indifferent to mood. Show up correctly or don't show up at all. The outcome will. Reflect it. If you want success, stop asking how you feel and start asking what works. Stop measuring days by exhaustion and start measuring them by alignment. Learn the rules of the game you are playing and follow them relentlessly. Success is not impressed by effort or moved by emotion. It responds to law. Obey it and success follows. Ignore it and no amount of sweat will change the outcome. Persistence without intelligence is just stubborn failure. It is the kind of effort that looks admirable from a distance but collapses under honest examination. People praise perseverance because it sounds heroic, but perseverance without thought is nothing more than refusing to learn. It is motion powered by ego instead of understanding, and it keeps people locked in losing cycles while convincing them they are being strong. There is a difference between staying the course and being stuck. Intelligent persistence adapts. Blind persistence repeats. One listens to feedback, the other ignores it. One refines strategy, the other worships effort. The world does not reward how long you endure pain. It rewards how well you respond to reality. Stubborn failure often begins with pride. Once time, money, or reputation is invested, people cling to a path to justify past decisions. Walking away feels like admitting weakness. So they continue, not because it works, but because stopping would hurt the ego. This attachment turns persistence into a trap. Instead of serving progress, effort serves identity. Feedback is the difference maker. Reality is always communicating through results, resistance, and outcomes. Intelligent people listen. Stubborn people explain away the signals. They call feedback bad luck, haters, or temporary setbacks, and then double down. But repeating the same action while expecting a different result is not resilience. It is denial. Effort should evolve. Early attempts are supposed to be rough. Mistakes are supposed to inform adjustments. When persistence refuses to adjust, learning stops. And when learning stops, progress ends. What remains is exhaustion disguised as discipline. The danger of blind persistence is that it consumes time. Time is the only resource that cannot be recovered. Years can be lost chasing an idea, a career, or a strategy that was flawed from the beginning, not because improvement was impossible, but because evaluation was avoided. Intelligence does not mean overthinking or quitting early. It means measuring results honestly. It means asking uncomfortable questions. Is this working? What evidence do I have? What needs to change? These questions do not weaken persistence. They sharpen it. Smart persistence is flexible. It keeps the goal constant while changing the method. Stubborn failure keeps the method constant and hopes the goal will eventually surrender. Goals never surrender. Reality does not negotiate. Many people confuse endurance with progress. They survive years of struggle and call it success because they didn't quit. But survival is not achievement. If effort does not move you forward, it is not loyalty to a dream. It is avoidance of responsibility. Intelligent persistence respects cause and effect. It understands that effort is only valuable when it produces information or results. If neither appears, something must change. This mindset turns setbacks into data instead of discouragement. Stubborn failure, on the other hand, romanticizes suffering. It believes pain is proof of righteousness. But pain is neutral. It can signal growth or misalignment. Only analysis reveals which one it is. Without analysis, suffering teaches nothing, the most effect. People persist ruthlessly, but they persist in learning, not just in doing. They test, measure, adjust, and repeat. Their persistence looks calm, not desperate. It looks strategic, not emotional. If you feel exhausted but unchanged, persistent but unfulfilled, the problem is not lack of grit. It is lack of intelligence applied to effort. Pause, evaluate, change approach. Then persist again, this time with clarity. Persistence is powerful only when guided by understanding. Without it, it becomes an anchor dragging you deeper into failure. Persistence without intelligence is not strength. It is stubborn failure, repeated until time runs out. Focused action beats endless labor every time. Strong starts line expended, and don't heading in 800 words. Focused action beats endless labor every time. Endless labor looks impressive, sounds disciplined, and feels heroic, but it rarely produces extraordinary results. It keeps people busy while progress stays slow. Focused action, by contrast, is quiet, selective, and often misunderstood. It does less, but what it does counts. The difference between the two is not effort, but intention. Endless labor is driven by volume. Do more, work longer, add tasks, stay late, wake earlier. It assumes that quantity will eventually turn into quality. Focused action is driven by leverage. It asks which single move creates the greatest impact right now. That question alone separates builders from grinders. When effort is unfocused, energy spreads thin. Attention jumps from task to task, never long enough to create momentum. People finish days exhausted and strangely dissatisfied because nothing meaningful advanced. This exhaustion is not a sign of commitment. It is the cost of fragmentation. Focused action concentrates energy. It aligns thought, timing, and execution. When focus is present, even small actions move systems forward. Progress becomes visible. Confidence grows. Momentum forms. This momentum reduces effort over time instead of increasing it. Endless labor often masks indecision. By staying busy, people avoid choosing priorities. Everything feels important, so nothing truly is. Focus demands choice. Choice demands courage. Once you choose, you must accept the consequences. Endless labor avoids that responsibility by hiding behind motion. Focus also protects energy. It creates boundaries. It says no to distractions, low-value tasks, and false urgency. Endless labor says yes to everything, then complains about burnout. Burnout is not caused by hard work. It is caused by work without direction. Results respond to precision, not pressure. Pressure can create short bursts of activity, but precision creates consistency. Consistency compounds. That compounding effect is what endless labor never achieves. It restarts every day while focused action builds on yesterday. The most productive people are rarely the busiest. They are the most deliberate. They spend more time deciding what not to do than what to do. This elimination creates space for depth. Depth creates mastery. Mastery creates disproportionate results. Endless labor reacts. Focused action plans. Reaction feels urgent and important, but it keeps you playing defense. Planning places you on offense. It allows you to move first, not just respond. Focus does not mean working less. It means working on fewer things. When effort is applied to the right target, resistance decreases. Work becomes challenging but not draining. You feel tired but not scattered. There is progress to point to at the end of the day. Endless labor builds tolerance for inefficiency. People become proud of their capacity to suffer instead of improving their approach. Focused action improves systems instead of demanding more sacrifice from the individual. Time is the ultimate judge. Endless labor consumes it. Focused action invests it. One produces stories about how hard it was. The other produces results that speak for themselves. If you measure success by hours worked, endless labor wins. If you measure success by outcomes achieved, focused action dominates. Outcomes are what matter. To focus is to accept limits. You cannot do everything. You should not try. Focus is discipline applied to attention. It is choosing impact over appearance. Endless labor keeps you tired. Focused action makes you effective. One is exhausting. The other is powerful. So if there is one truth you leave with, let it be this: your life does not change because you work harder, suffer longer, or stay busier than everyone else. It changes the moment